Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Hawk Talk, episode 240. Previewing what should hopefully be a fun Chiefs game, which will be a nice change of pace, even if it's not likely to be a win. But we'll get into all of that. And first, I should probably introduce some folks here. We have Jeff Simmons, real Jeff Simmons on Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah. I haven't been on Twitter much lately, but that is correct.
I know the feeling. How you doing? How's Canada?
I'm actually not in Canada. I am in your country right now. I am in southern Florida visiting my fiance's family. So I have enjoyed it. I'm in a t-shirt. It's been nice out.
It's not the crazy part of Florida. Something different about you. I think it was just the t-shirt, the short sleeves.
Yeah. I'm usually I think there's like a huge snowstorm coming to Toronto, so I'm pretty happy to be out of there. I'll be down here for a couple of weeks. So yeah, things are pretty good right now.
Nice. Dayna, I know that this is a very big week, a big game for you. How has it been as the our resident Seahawks fan in Kansas City?
It's been an interesting couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more when we get talking about the game. But Chiefs fans are in an interesting headspace right now, so I'm not really sure how they are either. It's interesting, but yeah, I'm the opposite of Jeff. I'm in a sweater. We're getting an Arctic blast. The game, it's going to be, I think, -6 or 8 when the game kicks off. I am not going, and I'm sick of fighting with people about it. I'm not going to the game. It's me too damn cold. So yeah, but yeah, it's been a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth between my friends who are Chiefs fans and a lot of nervous Chiefs fans. So it'll be interesting.
Interesting. So I have also been off of Twitter a bit here of late, and so I'm a little checked out, to be honest. I didn't watch a single minute of NFL football this weekend or on Monday night, which was strange. But between just taking a little bit of a break with the Thursday night game and Christmas responsibilities, family responsibilities, I didn't catch a minute of it. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to you, Dayna, and let you kind of run this show as the professional of the bunch here.
I don't know about that. Well, here's the interesting thing. It has been interesting this week. It's been, well, until tonight. Let me tell you this. Until tonight, there was a lot of happy Seahawks fans tonight. We're going to talk about the Pro Bowl here in just a little bit. But I think that with you and Jeff not being on very much, Brian has not been on very much. Evan has disappeared into the clouds. We have no idea where Evan is. And so it's just been kind of quiet. It's been me and Josh and Derek and Trey chatting in the chat. And so it's been kind of fun that way. But I think a lot of Seahawks fans took this week off. I do. I think that was just a lot of people just kind of checked out, and we're going to take a minute after that San Francisco game, after having 4 losses in a row. They just needed to take a minute and take stock. What I've been impressed with, though, this week is there's not a ton of doom and gloom. It was a shift. And I know you guys haven't been on Twitter, but it's been a shift of, okay, well, we might not make the playoffs. So what are we looking at here? We're talking draft. We're talking this. We're doing that. And it was impressive to me that there wasn't this big, huge blow up saying, that there was, all this doom and gloom. So I want to know we're going to start with, and I know we usually recap the game before just a little bit, but that 49ers game, yeah, it sucked. It sucks losing to them, right? Absolutely. But Jeff, what did you see in that game that maybe made you, have a little happy, or what completely just frustrated you?
I said this on our post-game show that night. I went in with like very, very low expectations. Like, I can't remember a game that I was dreading, like watching. Like, I was even debating like not watching, just like checking my phone at the end. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just give this a shot. And it was a relatively close game. I know San Francisco is clearly better, but
sure,
up until that Travis Homer fumble and the drop Diggs pick, like I was starting to be like, okay, maybe this can get interesting. And Seattle, you just saw the difference in quality between Seattle and San Francisco. And I think that was pretty eye-opening if you were seeing, okay, the Seahawks have taken strides in a lot of areas this year, but to become that championship-level team that we all got used to 10 years ago, you just can see the difference. And the gap is wide. And
It really
if you
is.
needed more evidence of that, and it was such an interesting week around the league, but I just think it's when you watch the Seahawks, the truth has just come around. It's so obvious what they are and what they aren't at this point, and just the gap between them and San Francisco, just in terms of talent. I wasn't really frustrated. I was actually kind of okay that they didn't get embarrassed, but like if that pick six counted, the score would have looked a little different. But
Definitely.
yeah, to me, it was just I was pleasantly surprised they didn't lose by 30 points, but realistically, like they're not close to. Like I don't want to see them in the playoffs. I don't want to see them play San Francisco again. I want to see them address what they badly need to address because, as you saw in that game, they're not close to being a playoff level contending team.
No, but I will say that what I was impressed with was and what I saw, and Nathan, tell me if I'm looking at this crazy, but it was almost like Jeff said, that if it was not for the Quandre Diggs drop, and if it was not for the, Homer fumble, they were keeping in step to a certain extent with San Francisco. But when they took a misstep, there was no way to get back up on top of that game. It's like as long as they kept even with them, they were in it. But those couple of little missteps, and they lost their grip on the team. Am I looking at that funny?
I think that's
if there had been more running backs, maybe that's a better question. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, you can definitely look at it that way. I think I lean a little bit more towards what Jeff was saying than that perspective of it. But like, yeah, I mean, it is the NFL though, right? I mean, I think all these teams, none of them are that far apart ultimately. And so you can play that game, I think, a lot. But I think I don't know, it's kind of conflicting too, because I'm looking at the Pro Bowl roster and everything, and Seahawks have 4 Pro Bowlers and 6 alternates. So at the same time, like, is there really this huge of a talent gap? I mean, I know the Pro Bowl is not like the be all end all by any stretch, but
Quandre Diggs made the Pro Bowl.
Yes, but I have a reason for that. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the Pro Bowl.
Okay, I'm still wrapping my head around that one. Yeah,
I'm going to try.
Yeah, so the Pro Bowl is definitely not the be all end all, but I don't know. I don't know what to make of this team really right now. They're kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah. It is a little frustrating. One thing that we did see is that San Francisco's defense is truly probably the best defense in football right now. There was no question about that. And they gave the offensive line horrid troubles this time. Ian Gino was sacked 3 times. They just look rushed. They looked hurried. Nick Bosa, as much as we want to hate him, he's a good player. And so it was interesting to me that that they still managed to not get blown out like Tampa Bay did, and not get, have those huge gaps that they had before. So I hate to be too much down on them. What bothers me the most, guys, is the fact that they've lost 4 in a row. It's the Raiders and the Panthers game that bothers me so much more than it does the 49ers game. And honestly, if they had won one or both of those games, man, this season would look 1,000 times different, wouldn't it? It'd be so much better.
I was just going to say the same thing. Like, yeah. I think that Niners game, if it had happened, like 4 weeks ago, we'd kind of be like, the Niners are really good, okay. But to see them lose to the Raiders, struggle against the Rams, lose to the Panthers, and then lose to the Niners in, you can cut it a lot of different ways, but like, if that pick 6 had counted, then this game, you can't really like squint at it and make it that pretty. That's, I think, the really hard thing is just in the context of where they've been through the last 4 or 5 games or whatever.
For sure. Let's talk about the Pro Bowl for just a little bit. I think that or Jeff, did you have something to say?
No, you guys covered it exactly. Really, you look at what's happened in Tampa since that game. I know that pushed Brian over the edge, and they've looked uncompetitive in basically every game other than Seattle. And Carolina, like ran over Seattle, and they got smoked by Pittsburgh this week with Mitch Trubisky. And these are average teams. The Raiders, like that game was pretty close, but the Raiders did some atrocious things. There was like a 4th-and-1 pitch, and they went for it. Like they kicked a field goal, 4th-and-1 inside the 19 against Seattle. That game could have been a blowout too, the way Josh Jacobs was running the ball. So it's not the fact they lost, it's how they lost, and that they're getting just like blown off the ball, and how like lifeless their defense has looked, and how one-dimensional really their team has become post Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's true. Defense is definitely a huge concern. But with that said, we have 2 defensive players that are going to the Pro Bowl this year. So very exciting. There's a lot of excitement on Twitter, and not just from Seahawks fans. We're talking about national media, Albert Breer, Adam Schefter, all these guys are like, oh my God, Geno made the Pro Bowl, right? Like they were so excited about that. That was really encouraging to see and really fun. And then of course, Tariq Woolen, who we knew. And there is all kinds of beef going on between Sauce Gardner and Tariq Woolen, but Tariq Woolen's not doing a damn thing about it. Like he's not saying a word. He hasn't posted a single thing, and Sauce Gardner cannot let it go. So you guys, if you guys haven't checked that out, you really should. It's pretty entertaining. But Seattle has a really good showing in the Pro Bowl this year. So obviously they have Tariq Woolen, they have Geno, they have Quandre Diggs, and then they have Jason Myers, which will make Evan very happy. Now I saw some comments in our comments. We have heard from Evan. He is fine. He just has disappeared from Twitter. So don't panic about Evan. He's fine. But those are the 4 main ones. But then they had 6 alternates, which was pretty impressive too. I think that for the most part, and I'll say for the most part, these Pro Bowl nods were earned. I was pretty impressed with them. I was glad that they got recognized. Nathan, I don't know if you've even had a chance to look at the Pro Bowl roster and the alternates, but what do you think about the players that were picked?
For Seattle or just generally?
Seattle. Yeah.
I mean, Diggs is the one. Yeah, I mean, that's the one that's really confusing. I don't know that he's been as bad as people think he is. I think a lot of the things that people are ragging on him for have been true for a while, when people liked him a lot. But with how porous this front 7 is, it's just showing up a whole lot more. So yeah, I think that's that's the one that sticks out a lot. But then, I mean, it's interesting that you have, Nuosu on there. That's pretty cool. And then Brooks ended up as an alternate, which is, again, like for a linebacker to make the Pro Bowl on a run defense as bad as this one's been. I know that he's got some of the stats, the tackle count stuff to really boost him there. But yeah, I mean, those were the ones that really stood out to me. Nuosu, just because I think he's a little bit more obscure, and I thought it was cool that he got picked. And then Diggs and Brooks look a little mildly to more than mildly fraudulent as Pro Bowlers.
Well, I will say, also Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf both made it as alternates. And if you look at the wide receivers that were picked, you kind of get it, right? Like they're just crazy good at that point. Now, Jeff, I'm going to give you my spiel for Quandre. Are you ready? Okay. Here's the thing. I agree with Nathan. He's not been as bad as people have been saying that he is. He does have 2 interceptions. He has a forced fumble. He does have some stats to back this up. I think what this vote was, because he was not in the fan vote at all, like not even considered. So it was really coaches and players that put Quandre Diggs into the Pro Bowl. But someone just said that when he gave up on that tackle on Kittle, I think that people were just done with him at that point, right? Like they were just over it at that point. And so I'm wondering how much the effect of the front 7, like Nathan said, being so porous has had an effect on him, or if he just realized he needs to save his body because they're not going to the Super Bowl this year. Like I think there's some definite business decisions being made there. So I kind of get there's a lot of respect for Quandre out there in the league. So I kind of get why they would do it. But at the same time, I kind of see your point too.
Yeah, and it's just the way it's looked. Like the missed tackles have been like egregious, and like they've just looked really bad. And I think what a lot of people respect about Quandre is a lot of people, especially Seahawks fans, seem to forget he had a significant injury in the last game of the year last year.
Right.
And so him like declining and play a bit, or him slowing down, and he's an older player too. He's getting into his 30s and early 30s or late 20s, and so he hasn't looked the same as he has in past years and made the kind of impact in center field. And they've switched schemes, so it's more of a 2-high scheme. It's a little different than he's been used in the past, but it's just the way it's looked, where it's been like a missed tackle that's leading to touchdowns or a dropped interception. And yeah, he's doing his mostly he's doing good responsibility. He's fine in coverage. He's not blowing plays in coverage. It's been like the effort on a few plays and the tackles that's been a little hard to swallow. But again, I get why someone would make a business decision after significant injury on a team that he particularly hasn't thought has been very good all the year. So I'm a little surprised I'm definitely surprised he was a Pro Bowler, given that, like you said, he wasn't in the fan vote. Like Jordan Brooks was like the number one linebacker in the fan vote because he has the counting stats. If you watch him play, like he's not a Pro Bowler. Like there's so many better inside linebackers this year. He's done some good things. He's just not consistent. But the Diggs thing, it's at least like if the players are voting for him, that's a good sign. But yeah, I don't think he's played quite to that level.
Right.
And there's questions whether he's even going to be on the team next year.
Yeah, I kind of agree with those questions. So this is the third straight Pro Bowl for Diggs, who joined the Seahawks in 2019. He is tied for 5th most interceptions in the NFL since 2019. So, I mean, I get the respect level for it, for sure. But, yeah, this just has not been his best season. Let's just put it that way. But it is important, I think, to remind people about that injury for sure. I'm so thrilled for Geno. I don't think anyone, there's some really mad Miami Dolphins fans out there right now, though, because Tua was number one in fan vote by a long haul. I mean, those Dolphins fans sat on their computers and voted and voted and voted and totally stuffed the box. Good for them. But he did not end up on a Pro Bowl roster, which tells you how much more important the players and coaches' votes are. And so I think that's something that we should consider. So I'm really excited.
Did you see who the AFC quarterbacks were?
Yeah.
It was Josh Allen, Burrow, and Mahomes. Like, it's not like losing to those three is some sort of knock on you. Those are the 3 best players in the league.
But Dolphins fans?
I'm around them. I'll bring this up at the grocery store tomorrow or something.
For sure. For absolutely sure. So, Jeff, is there a player on the Seahawks team that you think should have made it but didn't?
Yeah, Tyler Lockett. And there's just something about him. I don't know if it's like his lack of physical size or his like calm demeanor, or maybe he goes down. He just is consistently the most underrated player at his position, probably in the whole league. And he's so good at all aspects of receiver. And like this was a year I just thought with the quarterback change, he really has been one of, and like the advanced metrics like separation score and some of the more like stuff that Seth Walder does ESPN, I think he's number 1 in the league. So like you said, Dana, like the top 4 receivers, I pulled up the list before. It's like AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Like you're not taking those guys off. And like then Terry McLaurin, which again, you can make a case for Lockett or McLaurin, but it's not a knock on McLaurin. Like I think Lockett's had a better season. I would have had him in it, but again, like I don't want to say like Terry McLaurin's one of like the classic good receivers, does everything right. So I would have had Tyler Lockett in. And everything else, Mike Myers, I think has been as good as a kicker in the league. Geno
as much
Smith,
as I hate to admit it.
Yeah, he goes one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year. So next year, once the Seahawks sign him to make Evan happy, he's going to suck again. But yeah, the Geno thing's pretty cool. I got to say, like his play has tailed off a lot lately as the team's kind of fallen away. But like you just think about how much goes into that and like all the different quarterbacks the Seahawks could have got. Like Matt Ryan has been benched twice now. He's completely finished. Like his arm is just dead. Like Jimmy G, like maybe that would have worked out. Baker's on his second team this year. You saw what he is on Monday night. Malik Willis can barely throw the football. Like he looks like an XFL player when he's playing. Desmond Ridder had his first start, and it's his first start, but he looks like nowhere near ready. So all the different options, Drew Lock they could have had. Like imagine how bad the Seahawks would have been this year with Drew Lock. They might have gone 0-17, honestly. And just like the fact that they just landed on Geno and it hit, it's just still an unbelievable story. And we may not who knows? He might not be the quarterback of the Seahawks next year, but like, I think we just got to appreciate what happened this year, even if it does tail off and they lose the last 3 games. Still one of the more unlikely things that's ever happened watching sports.
Right. So, Nathan, are you thinking that now that it's Pro Bowler Geno Smith, that there's no way that they get rid of him? They do what they need to do to keep him.
I think they're gonna. I mean, I don't think that changes anything. No, ultimately,
Yeah.
I think that they were gonna be really serious about bringing him back either way. So yeah, I think it ultimately changes very little because I
Okay.
think that they were probably pretty committed to him the whole time.
Yeah, probably. All right. So, you guys want to do Patreon questions first, or should we talk about the Chiefs first?
We can get some Patreon questions and then get into the game.
Awesome. Sounds good.
I got them pulled up and everything.
Perfect.
So as always, all the Patreon stuff goes directly to charity. It's been Ben's fun for a long time. This year, totally spacing on
National Alliance of Mental Health, I believe is what it is. Yeah.
Yes. So we did make a change up there, but always goes to a good cause. And it's this is where I'm getting all of my news as I've taken a break from Twitter and everything, and hanging out in there. It's chill. It's a lot of good folks, a lot of smart folks. So yeah. All right. Let's see here. All right. Silk wants to know, and I'll ask this to both of you. We'll start with you, Dayna. Who from the players, coaching staff, and front office gets gifts this year, and who is getting coal? Dayna, do you want to give us one gift and one nice list and one naughty list?
I think without question, the nice list has to be Geno. It has to be the rookies. Honestly, it has to be Pete and John for pulling off that trade. I think that era has been really good. I mean, all the rookies. I think that's pretty easy. Cole, I have a harder time with because this team has already exceeded all of our expectations, right? Like, this is not at all what we thought, and we've had a lot more fun with football this season than we thought to. I think, though, definitely needs to be some coal dispersed amongst the defense. There has been a lot of problems there. If I had to pick anyone out, as much as everyone now loves Cody Barton did not have a great year to begin with. Probably Quandre too, although you guys know how much I love him, and I'm still expecting my pick 6. If it could be against the Chiefs, you guys, if it could be against the Chiefs, I don't care if we lost by 1,000 points, I'd be good. Yeah, I think you'd have to sprinkle it through that. But specific players, probably Barton, Quandre, a couple people players on the line, definitely.
Jeff, you have a bag of coal, and you have to decide whether you give it to the defensive players. What did I just do? I messed up my. Sorry, I clicked buttons on the Streamlabs and everything changed. All right, bag of coal. You have to decide whether you're giving those pieces of coal to defensive players or defensive coaches. Who gets it?
I'm gonna go defensive coaches. I don't know the ins and outs of schemes like some of the guys that I listen to, and I learn a lot. But just how easy it looks to run on them, and the fact that they've become the worst run defense in the league with basically the exact same personnel as last year, I just can't think that they're doing the best job of maximizing their players. And listen, I'm the one on here every week talking about how the players aren't good enough, and I've been saying this for a while, and their front seven's not good enough. But like, if you look at their front seven year to year versus last year, other than Bobby, like, it's basically the same guys. And they were a top 10, I think, an EPA unit last year, and they're a disaster. They're an absolute disaster. So I'm going to go with the coaches.
All right. This next one is specifically for Dayna. Comes from Braxton, one of the awesome folks in the Patreon chat. He wants to know, Dayna, as a KC resident, do you have any tips for fans going to the game in person? For staying warm outside, I guess, is one thing here, but also just what are the fun things to do? Is there a Seahawks bar? What should folks be hitting up if they're traveling to Kansas City?
Well, this weekend it's Christmas weekend. Everything is shut down. It's going to be minus temperatures. It's going to be crazy. No, there's not a Seahawks bar in Kansas City. I wish there was, but let me tell you this: that Kansas City is actually a really fun town, and I hope that people can find some fun things to do when they get here for the game. I will say that eat as much barbecue as you possibly can, and really just kind of go out. Power and Light's a lot of fun if anyone wants to go out there. Be wary if you wear your Seahawks gear. I will tell you, I have been to a lot of away games. The least fun I've ever had an away game is at a Chiefs game. The Chiefs fans they're not calm. Let's just put it that way. They're very loud. So be prepared for that if you go to this game. But more importantly, here's the thing with Arrowhead. Arrowhead was built in the 60s. It is solid concrete from the bottom up. It is hard, cold plastic everywhere. This is not comfy at all. So when you're going to this game, it turns into a giant wind tunnel and it's going to be really cold. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to warn you. So dress as warm as possible. Bring as many, hand and feet warmers. Play the game. And this is not a Seattle cold game, you guys. This is like an Arctic cold game. It's just a different level. But so yeah, I would definitely just make sure that you really, really layer up and you have your hand and feet warmers. But they won't let you bring cardboard in unless it's a sign, because standing on cardboard really does help keep your feet not so cold, but turn it into a sign, then stand on it. So, but I will tell you this. I hope that any Seahawks fans that are going to this game are not turned off on the entire town because of the fans that are at the game. I swear to you, it's a really fun town, and everyone should come back next year for the draft when everyone is happy, for sure. But I think it'll be a good time. I'm just telling you to be prepared. That's all.
All right. Corey says, so Franco Harris just passed, which is unfortunate. He wants to know, though, with that, kind of sparking the memory of Hall of Famers who had a cup of tea with Seattle. Who, Jeff, do you think is the greatest Hall of Famer to spend one season with Seattle? And I'm going to give you the option here. You can answer it. I think if you answer it in terms of just like overall, I think it probably has to be Jerry Rice. I don't think that's a very fun one. So who was the best as a Seahawk in their 1 year as a Seahawk?
Oh God. Yeah, I was going to say Jerry Rice, but God, who even else is on this list? Like, I'm going to have to defer this one. I can't remember any of them who were good for the year they're here.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Do the Seahawks claim any of these guys? Okay.
Like Dwight Freeney. He played like 3 games here.
Yeah, Dwight Freeney. Franco Harris. Edgerrin James.
He was really
Kevin Mawai doesn't really count, but he definitely made his name elsewhere. And then John Randall. He might have been here for more than 1 year, but we'll count him. And Jerry Rice. Which one of those were you like, oh man, he killed it as a Seahawk?
John Randall probably is the only one who was probably even above average. Like he was early in the homegrown years, but he was actually pretty good.
How many years did Warren Moon play for Seattle? It was just a couple, right?
Just a couple.
He was probably totally actually the best, right? Of anyone.
Yeah, probably.
Easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's throw T.O. in there. He was here for a preseason. He was a lot of fun.
Yeah. He cost Matt Flynn his career.
Yes, he did. Thank you.
All right, so that makes T.O. the best.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're going by that, it handed it all over to Russ, and that worked out okay. Okay, I have to find my Patreon questions again.
Oh, wait, hold on. So Jay says, do we forget the DJ Reed release? Imagine him and Tariq. DJ Reed was just here for for 1 year, wasn't he?
I don't know if DJ Reed's quite a Hall of Famer yet.
No, you said Hall of Famer. I was just thinking player that's still good because he just got snubbed for the Pro Bowl. He really should have made it. You're right. I'm sorry. I forgot the Hall of Famer thing.
Also Adrian Peterson, who cured Rashad Penny, apparently, by all accounts, because Pete doesn't know how to hire coaches. So he has
he will be a Hall of Famer. So he counts, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we counted Dwight Freeney, so that's kind of crazy. Okay. More Patreon questions. I'll take this one really quick from PCC. Is Jalen Carter or Will Anderson worth trading draft picks for? I don't think they're gonna have to. Actually, you know what? I won't steal this one. I want to know. And I'm kind of curious with both of you here. So Dayna, if they end up with like the 4th pick, are you going to be trading like both first round picks to move up and get a Jalen Carter or a Will Anderson? You know, assuming that they end up like a pick, however it's going to shake out. You know, let's pretend the scenario here is they end up a pick or 2 away from where they're likely to get those guys. Do you want them to be aggressive in moving up for one of those guys?
That's hard. Isn't that hard? That is hard for me just because because we don't know. I mean, a couple of those top teams aren't going to need a quarterback, right? And so they have a higher chance of going after those guys. So then do you miss it? And who are you trading with and how far back do you have to go? There's too many logistics, people. There's too many logistics. Here's what I'm thinking though. I'm going to say yes. If the Seahawks don't have to move. Well, so here's the scenario that we have then no more. We just have the 1 first round pick.
Well, they'll have 2.
They'll still have the 2. So they'll just move back.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is, so sorry, misunderstood. Let's say that they have to give up the equivalent of an additional first round pick, whether they end up somewhere at like 18, 19, 20 and just
okay, that's my question. Yeah.
Or like a future first or something like that. I mean, I think that's pretty much the going rate to get up from like, let's say they have to go from 5 to 3 or something like that, 5 to 2. Like you're going to give up a lot.
I think you're both going to say no, so I'm going to say yes.
Jeff, what do you think?
You know what? Blue chip players are blue chip players, and there's only a handful of them in this draft. So, God, it's kind of hard to say no to that, right?
Yeah, like Jalen Carter seems like the kind of guy that's very challenging to get, and I can kind of swallow that one a little more probably than Will Anderson, who's a very good pass rusher. But if you look at all the problems, like just establishing the defensive line, but for me, like I don't like the idea of determining you're 1 player away. When you look at this team, they need volume, and I think one of the biggest mistakes teams make is when they fall in love with 1 player instead of sticking to a process. And I think a team like this, which they really need these first round picks, and if Seattle keeps losing, like they're at 15 right now, that 2nd pick is going to be pretty high, and the 2nd rounders are really important too. And I think like just historically studying the draft, like the more important draft picks you have, I know this team hasn't drafted particularly good, but they really need these players. And I think right now trading, like unless it's a quarterback, like I'm pretty inclined not to trade up. Unless like, again, even Jalen Carter will make me think twice because I think he just solves everything this team needs. But just like a pure pass rusher, like Will Anderson, I don't think I would do it.
So, all right, I'm gonna pivot this around then. If you're saying that the team is not 1 player away, let's say that they end up right now they're 3. Let's say that's where they end up. So they're guaranteed pretty much, I think, at that point to have Will Anderson and or Jalen Carter on the board, and either Indianapolis or Atlanta or Carolina, who are picking 6, 7, 8. You've got the Raiders at 10. Let's say one of these guys call you and they want you to trade up for your pick and they are giving you a future first. Are you trading out of Jalen Carter? You don't want to trade in. They're not 1 blue chip away. So Jeff, would you then trade out if you're getting, moving back 5 spots and getting a future first from a team that's probably still going to be not great next year?
If it's like Atlanta, I think I would definitely do that. And I just think the team, if you can come out with 2 first-rounders this year, 2 first-rounders next year, and if Atlanta tanks next year, and you're in the Caleb Williams position to have that pick too, I know Jalen Carter is he's my draft crush. Like he's the guy I really want. I think you have to do that. I think it'd be just too juicy, but I'm not dying to get down the draft board because this team needs upper echelon players. But if like someone like Atlanta's offering you their first round pick, sort of like, and we see what happened this year with, look, you got the Detroit, Seattle, they're gonna end up in the top 5 because of these trades. Like I don't see how you can say no to that.
And obviously Dayna agrees that we should trade back. So we'll just move on to the next question.
Absolutely not. Oh my God. How can you say? Okay, first of all, this fan base would lose their ever loving mind if they traded out of the 3rd pick and could have Jalen Carter. I can't even imagine the backlash of that. Like, it would be overwhelming. And I get needing more. It makes so much more sense to take him there and trade your other pick back. Like, if that's where if some of those quarterbacks are still sitting there and some of those other teams want to bring up and get them, gives me heart palpitations, you guys. You cannot give up on that level of a player. If they want to trade out of that 2nd pick that they have in the 1st round, go do it. Get as many as you can, stock it up, whatever you want to do. But if you're at 3 and he's sitting there and we see the Seahawks trade their pick, even if no, my answer is no.
I'm going to straddle the line on that one a little bit because I also love Jalen Carter, but I also love trading back. And so I think we can all agree that hopefully they will be at 2 or 3, and they are making a decision on whether to take Jalen Carter or trade back and not sitting at 6 or 7 and having to think about trading up, because that is definitely a much more painful deal. Okay, more Patreon questions. Jeff, unfortunately I can't toss this one to Evan, but John wants to know, when does the Jason Myers extension get done? Not if. I want to know a date and a time if you're that confident on it.
I don't know when free agency starts. Somewhere in the middle of March usually. So I'll go like March 17th. They re-sign him to an amount that's going to drive us all nuts, assuming that they don't franchise tag him. Who knows with the Seahawks? The Seahawks responded very favorably when he had a career year in Jacksonville last time, and he's now a Pro Bowl kicker. So they're likely going to do something that will only make Evan happy, and the rest of us will be miserable about it. And anyone who thinks otherwise is probably wrong. So it's going to happen. We're all going to be annoyed by it, and I'm already mentally preparing for the frustration of how much they're paying the kicker and punter of this team.
Boy, the really amazing scenario there is that they franchise tag Jason Myers and then botch the Geno extension or negotiations and lose him when they could have just tagged their quarterback, and they can pull a Ruskell after having one of the best off seasons ever. Dayna, Gar wants to know if Seattle ends up losing out and Denver ends up winning out, both teams, he says, will finish 7-10. I've not fact checked that, but let's say he's right. How does that make you feel about this year? Because I think if we had talked about this at the start of the year and we talked about a 7-10 Seahawks team and a 7-10 Broncos team, I think we would have been pretty darn happy about it, right? Mm-hmm. But how do you feel about it getting offered that now?
Well, I will tell you that is not going to happen because the Denver Broncos cannot beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. It's just not going to happen, people. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it would be the miracle upon miracles. But
don't they play week 17 though? When do they play?
January 1st.
So last week. So I mean, they could be playing. It could be backup quality against actual backups.
No.
The Chiefs
will
go
one more week after.
Yeah,
it's a really important game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, gotcha. They're vying for the top seed. There is no way they're going to sit them. I will unless the Bills fall apart in the next 2 weeks. You know what I mean? But still. But here's the thing. How that makes me feel is actually the same as it would. I mean, honestly, we expected so much out of the Broncos. We expected nothing out of the Seahawks. For them to end up equal after everything that has happened, I actually would be, I don't think that's going to make me fret too much. It'll piss me off. Arizona pissed me off last weekend, as everyone who watched my Twitter, because I lost my mind because they can do nothing right, including beat the Broncos. But that it will make me mad because of the draft pick situation. But as for a record and how the teams performed, no, I don't think it'll upset me too terribly. Sorry if that's not the answer you guys wanted. Oh, yes, it'll make me mad. No, it won't. I don't think it'll bother me other than the draft pick.
Eric has a question. I think we'll call this the last. Okay, actually, yeah, we'll do one more after this, and it's a special one just for Dayna. Eric wants to know though. So, a great deal of goodwill and good feeling have come out of the Russ trade, the draft, the emergence of Geno, for the front office and everybody. How dangerous and quickly could that sentiment change if the Seahawks invest $30+ million in Geno and he regresses? We've talked about this a little bit now. I think mostly focusing on the defensive side of the ball. Do you see there being a lot of backlash if Seattle, does kind of jump in on Geno and it ends up not going super great?
No, I think those are two totally different equations that you have to put aside. One, getting out of Russ when they did, the timing of it, and turning that into 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, no matter what happens with Geno, is a win, especially that they got Charles Cross, their left tackle of the future, and whoever they get this year. That's a massive win. If they miss on Geno, yeah, you're left being frustrated, but I don't think it has anything to do with my view of the Russell trade. I think it had to do with just it's a totally different equation, and it's definitely a possibility. Geno's had one good year, and his numbers have dramatically changed against better competition, and I think the franchise tag is still the way to go with him, and a wait and see mode, especially if he fizzles these last 3 games. But no, absolutely not. The Russell trade is a 10 out of 10 home run. You're looking at a top 5 pick, and I'm with Dayna. Like, I don't think there's a chance they will go 3-0 to end the year. It's likely 1 and 2 as a ceiling. So I'm totally fine with it, regardless of how Geno.
All right, last one from Jason. Dayna, any chance Bruce Irvin comes back next year to be a locker room ass kicker?
God, I do love Bruce Irvin, but I don't know. I don't know that he's made enough of an impact this year to do that. I mean, it's possible if he's willing to kind of stay around and mentor and be a rotational guy or whatever it may be. I think honestly, Geno would be like, I just want to be here. I don't care what you do with me, sort of a thing. But no, I think that once they redo a lot of these contracts and get through some stuff, that they'll need that space and hopefully have someone to take his place, which sounds terrible, but we can hope, right? A young guy.
Yeah, I think Bruce has been fine. He's definitely been better than I expected.
Solid, yeah.
I mean, I don't know that you can say he's had a hugely positive impact on this run defense. So even if he has maybe the right mentality and all that, because they are still getting their asses kicked. All right. That's it for the Patreon questions. Cool. Thanks, everyone. And all right, Dayna, I'll turn it back to you.
So let's talk about this Chiefs game a little bit. I have been dreading this game all season long. It is, interestingly enough, at the beginning of the season, the Chiefs fans were chirping at me a lot. Geno was going to be terrible. The Chiefs were going to eat him for Christmas dinner. Like, it was a whole thing. Then last week happened, and the Chiefs went into Houston and had to go to overtime to beat him. And a few other games that happened with him this season. They got beaten by the Colts. They had a lot of games that had a lot of stumbling in it. And their attitude has changed. I have a lot of nervous Chiefs fans now at this point, just because the thing of it is that I keep hearing from all these fans is that the Chiefs are playing down to their competition, which then I'm like, what do you mean by down? And I try to make a joke of it, but they're nervous and they're not really sure why they're nervous. They have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce to the top of the league, right? Without question. It's their defense that has given them some issue. They've had a lot of injuries who are slowly coming back. Supposedly McCole Hardman will be back this game, and that could be a big help for them. But Chiefs fans are nervous. And I think it's because they're realizing that they have 2 other teams in the AFC really nipping at their heels and getting close to them. So just looking at the overview of this game to start with, and we are going to talk about their run game just a little bit, Nathan. I'm warning you right now. We're going to talk about that run game just a little bit. But looking at this, do you think, and we already know that Patrick Mahomes is going to carve up this defense. We get that, right? We expect that. However, he's had some interceptions as of late. That could be a huge opening for Seattle. He's had a few problems, but The defensive side of the ball, I'm wondering as I look at this game, and Nathan, I'm going to start with you, how you feel about this. The defensive side of the Chiefs ball, I think, leaves a lot of opportunity for Geno.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the story of this game for Seattle. I had not heard the weather reports. I think that's a big bummer for Seattle because they are going to have to be able to outscore Kansas City. And I mean, the weather will affect both teams equally, but I think Seattle is just ultimately much more reliant on their offense. And there is an opportunity for them to put up points on this Chiefs defense. But yeah, the weather I think is going to be a little bit disproportionately in Kansas City's favor. So that is by far what I'm more worried about than what Seattle actually has to game plan against.
Jeff, what about, and when I look at this, do you see any chance? Because I do see a little bit of chance for Kansas City here. For Seattle against Kansas City here for the Seahawks, even without Tyler Lockett. And that is going to be a huge, huge loss for them, right? They're going to double team DK. I'm really hoping we see a lot out of Goodwin, but I feel like there's some opportunity there for this offense to take advantage, especially moving it down the field. The run game has not been great for them. So does that come back? Although once again, it sounds like Ken Walker might be out again. I feel like there's opportunity there, and the weather's going to suck. But if you just look at kind of the playmakers on the Seahawks team versus the Chiefs defense, I feel like there's some opportunity there.
Yeah, that's where to me the Lockett injury is just really unfortunate.
Yeah, huge.
Like the Niners game, I just dreaded so much because of just the stylistic mismatch. Mm-hmm. This is actually a game, and if you watch the Chiefs the last month, they've looked a little spotty. Like they almost blew a 27-0 lead a couple weeks ago to Denver. That Houston game, like Nathan just said, he didn't see a lot of football last week. That was like backwards as a game. The Chiefs looked inferior to them in every way. Mahomes had to pull stuff out of his ass, and it was just like bizarro world. It made no sense at all. And they just have looked. They had a game against the Rams, like third stringers, where they looked really spotty too. And yeah, the Seahawks, the injury report has not been favorable. I saw that before I came on here, where Ken Walker hasn't practiced all week. Noah Fant hasn't practiced all week. Lockett's out. So stylistically, I actually think this is a game. The Seahawks, they're not like a physical run team. The Chiefs, McKinnon's been really good lately, but Pacheco's been fumbling a lot. He fumbled last week also. And this is a game the way Seattle plays, it actually can go head to head with them. But with all these injuries now, it seems like KC will just pull away. But I think stylistically, the Geno passing game right now is one of the only things this team can hang their hat on. And Seattle's been okay as a pass defense. It's the run defense that's really killing them. And Kansas City is a mostly pass dominant offense. And it's Cody Barton and Jordan Brooks against Travis Kelce is obviously a very terrible matchup. But if they can scheme around the tight ends, their receivers are kind of weird. And Mahomes is running around and kind of pulling things out of his ass because they don't have Tyreek anymore. So they've looked a little spotty in November in the last couple of weeks, but I don't think Seattle has the horses right now to keep up with a team like this.
So can we talk about the Lockett thing for a second?
Sure.
Daddy Dennis in the chat is saying that he is hearing that Lockett is a possible go. By all accounts, surgery went very well. And yeah, I'm reading a quote here from Pete Carroll, who said he had his surgery and the doc says it was perfect. Dennis also says that he said something about it. Oh yeah. That's the first thing that came out of them from the docs, that there's a chance he'll be back. So we'll see what happens. That sounds crazy, miraculous, but they secured it in a way that they know that he can already start moving his hand and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe not Lockett, though. I don't know if he can at this point. But who is excited for a second straight season to talk about miraculous finger injury recoveries? We get to do it all over again, folks. Because the Seahawks, just like Seahawks Twitter, they're nothing but original and unique and constantly coming up with new content. So Do you think that we are going can Lockett out Russ and make it back and without missing any time actually?
Everything I have heard today is that he will not play this game, but he should be back for the Jets game. And I have heard that from multiple places. So if he walks out there and is active on game day, I will be shocked because that is not what I'm seeing at all. But even to make it back in 2 weeks is pretty impressive. If he can make it back for the Jets game, that would be pretty impressive.
Do you think we can get Cashman to do a video dunking on Rest for Lockett coming back faster from a finger injury?
I don't think he'd do it, but maybe we can ask him.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, sorry.
That's okay. So if you look at the Chiefs, you're absolutely right about the rushing. So their top rusher is Isaiah Pacheco at 677. And their second best rusher is Patrick Mahomes. Now, obviously, Edwards-Helaire got injured earlier. McKinnon was injured and now is back. But the run game is not who they are. That is not a strength of theirs. It might become one this game, right? Like, because Tampa Bay didn't run the ball and then all of a sudden they were perfectly proficient at it. But I think that that could be helpful. And that's what I meant about the run game. I just don't know if even the way this defense is playing against the run, that even their non-existent run game won't become fantastic, right? I do want to talk about Travis Kelce really quick, though, because obviously he's the biggest threat that they have at this point. Nathan, when you look at this team and the way they've been tackling and the way that they have been missing, I just have this feeling this is going to be an insanely huge game for Travis Kelce. Do you see it any other way?
I mean, we just saw what George Kittle did.
Oh, my Lord, right?
So, yeah, I think if you're a fantasy owner and hopefully you're in the playoffs at this point with Travis Kelce, I think you're going to do all right.
Yeah. I just don't see any way for them to slow him down at all. I think it just seems a little bit crazy, but
neither does Quandre Diggs.
Stop it. You are terrible today. I got your back, Quandre. Don't listen to them. I got your back. This is my week. I'm telling you guys, this is it. This is the week for sure. Oh man. So what we're going to do predictions here in just a couple of minutes, but Jeff, what do you see happening? Do you see Seattle keeping up? Do you see the defense completely falling apart and this being a complete and utter blowout? Don't need your scores just yet. What's your overall?
I don't think it'll be as ugly as it's been the last few weeks, but I think just KC will just move the ball really comfortably, sort of like the Raiders did a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Seattle, the kind of teams that slow down Kansas City are teams with good pass rushes, and they move Mahomes off the spot. And Seattle's been such a bad third down defensive team lately, and I think they'll just be able to comfortably move the ball on third down pretty much all game. And unless their pass rush magically comes to life at Arrowhead, like Houston's did last week, I don't know how that happened, but I think just Kansas City will move the ball. Seattle will score. They'll score quite a bit, but I think it'll be a pretty comfortable win for Kansas City. And unless I don't think it's going to be the way it's looked the last couple of weeks with the run game. Like Jerick McKinnon's been really, really good for them, but they use him more as like a throw the ball into space. Mm-hmm. And I think they'll have a lot of success, like putting him against the linebackers and getting him in space. And they'll hit their Travis Kelce plays on third down, and it will be very frustrating. But I just don't think Seattle, they're not a pass rushing team. They're not a run stopping team. So it doesn't line up well for what's looking like the MVP of the league.
Oh, Nathan, what about you? What's your overview on this? Are you just doom and gloom?
No, I don't have just doom and gloom. Like
no.
I'm hoping for, I mean, they're going to lose, I'm pretty sure, but I am hoping for a fun game. I don't think we've had a fun game in a while. Like even though like that Raiders game was like, it was close, it was points, it should have been a fun game. Like the expectations around that game were so high at that point still, I think, that it was hard to really enjoy them struggling and everything that came with that game. So I do think that it's going to be enjoyable. That's really my biggest hope. And I mean, if if they can get something like that Broncos game that the Broncos played against the Chiefs, right, where 34-28 or something like that, it's close and they're scoring points and things are happening and Mahomes is Mahomesing and he's going to have a couple crazy touchdown passes to Travis Kelce, but maybe he'll also throw a pick six to Tariq Woolen and just a fun, entertaining game. I think things will happen, and I think Seattle will end up on the short end of it. But yeah, I think it'll be an entertaining game.
Mm-hmm. I looked on another podcast. I looked at the last 3 games of this season, and this one is just an obvious loss to me. If we win it, I cannot tell you how happy I will be to go to work on Monday. I have to put that out there. But I look at the rest of the season, and I'm not so worried about them losing every game anymore. I was after the loss to the Raiders and the Panthers, but after the game last week, even though they lost, I felt a little bit stronger. I felt a little happier about it. And looking at the injuries that the Jets have, and then the Rams being the Rams, I was feeling much better about those couple of games. But this one, yeah, this one's going to be a little tough. All right, I want your score predictions. Jeff, what's your score prediction?
I'll say 35-27, Kansas City.
Oh, that's good. Nathan, what about you?
34-31. Man, I really want to pick the Seahawks. Kansas City.
Do it. Be a rebel. Be a rebel. You can do it.
No. I've picked the Seahawks, I think, in literally every game. I picked them last week.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, I need to change the mojo here a little bit. So I'm picking Kansas City.
I don't know that it's going to be that high, just simply because it's going to be cold, so cold. So I don't know that the scores will be that high. And I actually believe it. I don't think it's going to be that close. I'm so impressed with the two of you right now that you think it's even going to be that close. But I think it's probably going to be more like 27-17 kind of a game. But we'll see. It just kind of depends on how much they lock down DK and how important he has become now, and what he can do and how much he can step up to that. And like I said before, I really like Marquise Goodwin. I think that he, with his speed, that could be really helpful to them there too. I just don't know with the red zone issues that they've had lately. I'm just not sure that game gets that high, but it would be fun. And if the defense showed up and if they showed some life, it would really encourage me, I think, for the next couple of games. You were going to say something, Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to say there's one thing I'm watching beyond this game. There's some chatter around the league that people are wondering if Pete's going to retire. And I don't know if it's true, but there's been some weird signs where Pete was talking after the game how he had this whole speech prepared for the team and that he was sad he couldn't tell them that they won. And then this week he gave out shoes to everyone in the media. He gave out those Air Monarchs. And it was kind of weird, the timing. He's been here 13 years and he just happened to hand out Christmas gifts to the media. So there's some chatter. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm watching that closely. Every Saturday or Sunday now, every week, the national media guys come out and have these big reports. I'm wondering if anything comes out about that. It might amount to nothing. It's possible people are wrong, but there's been some weird things lately that I'm just wondering if things are starting to come around there.
Nathan, how would you feel if Pete retired?
Shocked at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the only thing that I would think of at that point would be just that, I mean, he talked about it last year, right, when they kept losing, and how he doesn't like losing, and that's that is palpable. He gets weird in interviews. He gets moody, and it's sometimes it's angry, and sometimes it's I wouldn't have won many games here without Russ. It's kind of all over the place. So, and then to see this defense kind of collapse the way it has and to struggle to kind of find that personality, I guess that's what I would probably be thinking of most, although I doubt that it would be a spur of the moment type decision for him. So this is probably, if it does happen, it's probably been something that maybe they talked about. Maybe that's why he didn't get fired. Maybe he was like, yeah, I'll coach the transition here. and I'll write it out. After last year, right, when it was kind of a question. So I don't know. That would be really fascinating. I would ultimately be very shocked and very interested to read all the sourced up pieces about what happened there.
If I'm totally honest, Jeff, when you said that, my heart freaking sunk. And it's not because I'm like some Pete stan, although I really do like him as a coach. I love defensive coaches, and I think he's been amazing. But it was just like shocking to me because I had not heard that. And I did think it was weird about the shoes, but I didn't really think much of it because, I don't know. But literally my heart sunk. Like that would be heartbreaking to me that he would go out on that type of year, even though we consider it kind of a successful year because they've been so much better than we thought they were going to be. I have a hard time imagining him leaving it. Do you know what I mean? Saying, okay, I just got to leave this now.
Yeah. Ultimately, I don't think it'll happen, but
yeah,
it's interesting. So I'm on like watch. I want to listen to the words he says. Like he's 71.
Not to get too far ahead on rumors and everything. I don't sitting with it for a second here. I don't think it's crazy actually that this was something that they had agreed on. Maybe last year sometime, or that he had let the organization know about last year sometime. And maybe that's why he finally relented on trading Russ. And maybe this was kind of maybe a little bit of a last hurrah, maybe him actually being a good kind of organizational steward and saying, I'm not going to, retire now when we're going through all this change. And if they're terrible, then it's going to be hard on the new coach. So I don't, and then I the stuff about the speech and the shoes, that's all really, kind of, it's very speculative, obviously, but definitely interesting. And I think, I don't know, we've talked about it off and on, like he's been in a weird place, it seems like, and it did start after the Russ injury, so I mean that's all it is, and this is all just bogus, but I don't think it's crazy to think that this is something that could have been in the works now for a little while.
But do you honestly think that he would leave with the defense in the situation it's in? Like, I just can't imagine that. Like, I can see where you feel okay about the offense and it's going well and they have, their new rookies and everyone's doing good, but the defense is a disaster. I just have a hard time seeing him walk away from the defense in such a mess with now a questionable coordinator, which I really liked Hurt to begin with. And now we don't know what's happening there. I would be surprised. The year, once they get it settled, maybe I could see that. But because remember, he said that he had a 2 to 5 year plan or something ridiculous. And let's not forget, he's insanely competitive with Bill Belichick. I do not see him leaving before Bill Belichick does. But at the same time, if that was part of the deal, do you know what I mean? Like if that was part of the plan after the Russ, you get this year, maybe, oh my God, I would just be heartbroken.
I will say, I think it's way more likely that he leaves at this point than he starts to build it back and has you get 1 year of an exciting Jalen Carter year. And then he's like, yep, that's it. Time for somebody else to run with.
I've done my work.
Touchdown vulture this one, Clint Hurt or Sean Desai or whoever my successor is. Bring back Shaddy. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, maybe he's just like, I want another year. We can trade Russ. I'll try to set us up in a decent spot. You don't have to have a coach in a weird rebuild situation. I got another year of energy left, and then I want to sail off and, spend time with my wife or whatever. It's not crazy.
It's not crazy, but it makes me sad. I'm not going to lie.
I will say too, I don't know why it hit me as surprisingly real when Jeff said that. And I got sad too. That was my instant reaction.
I was like, Jeff, thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks for letting us finish on a crap.
What a downer, Jeff.
Oh God, the
team is in such an exciting, happy place with all the recent string of success, and you want to drop that on it.
I'm just curious. I'm very curious. I'm just watching what the national guys say. It's like Black Monday is coming. I don't think people get fired. I don't think there's any scenario people get fired. But this is where you get all those reports. Like last year when Sean Payton walked away, like no one saw that coming.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious. I'm going to be very interested to see how these last 3 games go. If anything comes out nationally, I'm on watch. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. The other thing too, because I'm really fascinated about what happens with this coaching staff, because I mean, they have 3 games left to get it fixed, and that doesn't mean turning into a good defense, but that means turning into a competent, not clown shoes defense. But if they stay this bad the rest of the year, like Pete is going to have to think about firing more defensive coaches. And like, I don't know how many times he wants to fire these guys. Like, I like he does seem to kind of care about the people around him, and he's big on like sending these guys off to bigger and better things. And he has been dumpstering defensive coaches for years now, so that could be another factor in him being like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to go through another round of firing and hiring.
Yeah. So Daddy Dennis in the chat just said DQ is the only viable replacement for me. If they hired Dan Quinn to come back as head coach, that would fix my sadness. I'm just telling you right now, my sadness would be gone, and then he can help fix this defense. That's the only one.
It's pretty crazy. John Schneider's never hired a head coach.
That's true.
Like somewhere in his like back of his head, like he's got to be wanting to get his. Like Pete hired him, and somewhere I don't deep down, like I know they're tied together. He's got to be wondering like, what happens if I hire my guy? And like I know he was the one who wanted to trade Russell earlier, and Pete wouldn't do it, and it's just interesting because some of the best candidates this year, there's not like the Brian Dable, or a lot of the best candidates are on defense, and you pair maybe a defensive coach with Waldron, because I don't think Waldron's getting a head coaching job. I don't think there's a chance of that happening. So then all of a sudden, maybe that's an interesting, because there's not a lot of like, even like the Mike McDaniels kind of guys who are emerging. Like the guys on the best teams are sort of not.
Go back to the USC well.
Yeah.
Go grab Lincoln Riley.
That's an exciting idea.
That would not cure my sadness. I'm just saying.
I'd be very
that would
fired
cure
up.
my sadness. Oh boy.
Yeah, I'd be very fired up.
Yeah. Well, I will say, if it is indeed Pete's last year, which at this point we are wildly speculating, I hope he announces it before the Rams game, so he gets a chance at a decent send off. For all of the Russ and Pete drama and the fire Pete and all this stuff, I mean, undoubtedly he deserves a big thank you when he does decide to end up leaving, if he gets to do it on his own terms. So, yeah, I guess.
And to that accord, too, you people who out there listening to us, our darling listeners who we love and adore, if one boo comes out of your mouth for Bobby Wagner, I swear to God, I will jump through my television and wring your neck. Don't do it. This is not the same situation as Russell. This is very different. And Bobby Wagner better get the loudest cheer I've ever heard.
Strongly disagree. Boo the hell out of
what?
Him.
No, Nathan, of course you disagree.
The argument that held for Russ holds for Bobby too. Boo the hell out of him. Yes,
no.
He's on the other team. You boo them. Boo him.
No, it's not the same at all. They let him go. He wasn't whining for years to get the hell out of it because he was not being used properly. He wanted to stay. Nathan,
he plays for the division, like the hated Rams.
I don't
Boo.
care.
We'll argue about this in a couple weeks some more.
We will, for sure. All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you go to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Join the group, you guys. It's so fun. The Slack channel is a blast. There are some insanely good and deep football conversations that go on over there. And I'm continually impressed by the people who are in our Slack channel. So make sure you do that. Obviously, we want you to give the like to the show and subscribe if you will, please. But make sure thumbs up, people. It really helps us a lot and we appreciate it. So we will see you guys all again next Wednesday. Good or bad, no matter what happens here, we will
also
be back.
Probably on Sunday.
Oh yes, Sunday after game.
Some of us do a post game show.
Well, you can come on Sunday, but I think the after game show will actually be on Saturday. But that's okay, one or the other.
We're doing a Christmas episode. Everybody, tune in, open presents, and listen to me complain about how the Seahawks lost. It'll be great.
That sounds like so much fun. Go ahead and do that. That'll be a blast. All right, everyone. Thank you guys so much. And as Brian always says, go Hawks.
Oh, I'm the one that's supposed to do this, huh? You two froze really well. Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.